Laguna Seca Raceway. The SCCA Super Vees are here for a 100-kilometer race today on ESPN. ESPN, now in its 7th season as your #1 auto racing network, presents Auto Racing 85. Welcome you to Monterey, California, Laguna Seca Raceway, where we have a beautiful day. The temperature is 65 degrees. Winds from the northwest at 3 to 5 miles an hour, only 25% humidity. Chance of rain listed at 30%. Right now we have partly cloudy skies. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Bob Jenkins, along with IndyCar driver Derek Daly. This is an SCCA Super Vee race here this afternoon. Now, the IndyCars also compete on this racetrack, but Derek, quite honestly, the Super Vees are better suited for it.
They are indeed, Bob. The track is just a little bit narrow for the Indy cars, and the Super Vees, being so much smaller and more nimble, can really have a good time of racing here.
There are 4 drivers in contention for the Super Vee championship. Now, Ken Johnson is the current points leader.
Indeed, he starts 8th on the grid today. It's going to be very difficult for him to win this race because people like Davy Jones, who are on the pole, has been a very fast man, but slightly inconsistent this year. But I think Davy is going to be Johnson's hardest man to beat today.
Mike Groff has won 2 consecutive IndyCar races, or rather Super Vee races. With more on that story, here's one of our 2 pit announcers for today's activity, Gary Lee.
Thank you, Bob. In Super Vee competition, Mike Groff goes against the grain because most of these guys come to the series with a wealth of background in road racing in rear engine equipment. But Groff's background is in midgets on the short, dusty bull ring. So he's surprised a lot of folks with those back-to-back victories. He's right now 2nd in points. He'll be starting 5th on today's grid. Also working in the pit area with us is our colleague, Jack Arute.
This gentleman has a lot to prove today. He was highly touted at the start of the season. He won at Long Beach. His name is Davy Jones. He, of course, driving the Red Roof Inn Special. Now, the question is, can he be consistent enough to win or place well? He's ranked 3rd in points. He's had 3 second-place finishes, but throughout the season, he's been a little rough. He's been brash and fast at the same time. We'll have to wait and see just how well he does today. Let's go back upstairs now for the starting lineup and Bob Jenkins.
All right, Jack, 32 laps around this 1.9-mile road course here at Laguna Seca. We'll be back with a look at the course and the starting lineup for today's Super Vee race right after these messages. Back at Laguna Seca, and here are the point standings in Super Vee competition. Ken Johnson on top with 126 points. Mike Groff is 2nd with 107. Then Kerry Brin, Davy Jones, Jeff Andretti, and Ted Prappus are tied for 5th place with 81. Now, a race is worth 20 points, so the winner of today's event will get 20 points, and there is one more race after this. That will be at Phoenix International Raceway. So you can see that there are 4 drivers capable of winning the championship. Now let's take a look at the starting lineup for today's race. On the pole in car number 2 from McGraw, New York, will be Davy Jones. Outside, car number 30 from Belgium, Didier Tays. In row number 2 will be car number 11, Kerry Brin from Newport Beach, California. In car number 3, Jeff McPherson from Santa Ana, California. In the 3rd row will be car number 14, Mike Groff, and number 43, Jeff Andretti. The 4th row will be Scott Atchison in 33 and Ken Johnson in 1. In row number 5, car number 21, John Stephanus, and number 5, Steve Brin. In the 6th row, car number 98, Ted Prappus, and number 4, David Coudray. In the 7th row, Matt McBride in number 12 and Peter Pander in number 9. The 8th row, Tom Tate in 51 and Kim Campbell in 19. The 9th row, Michael McHugh in 0 and Patrick Finney in number 8. The 10th row, Gary Rubio in 26 and Al Arciero in 96. The 11th row, car number 15, Doug Clark, and number 16, Mike Fulmer. In the 12th row, C.T. Hancock in number 13 and Steve Wolf in 71. The 13th row, Jim Ward in 48 and Danny Thompson in 87. Row number 14, Jeff McCoy in 29 and Ed Davin in 36. In the 15th row will be David Whitney in car number 62. Those are your starters for today's 100-kilometer race here at Laguna Seca. And it is a 9-turn road course, 1.9 miles in length. Right now the field is in turn number 4. This is a left-hander. There are only 2 right-handers on this course, and corner number 4 is one of the left-handers. Now, the corkscrew is the area of the racetrack they're approaching right now, and Derek, this has to be one of the scariest turns and areas in all of racing.
Without doubt, one of the most unusual corners I have ever seen in any track in the world, this corkscrew. Very difficult, very unusual when you first see it, because you rise right up into the sky, flatten out for about 2 seconds, and straight a sheer drop back down again.
Now they're in turn number 8. That is a right-hander, and at this point you are going downhill at about 6 degrees. Now they are approaching turn number 9, which is the hairpin, the slowest portion of the racetrack. Right off of the hairpin, they enter the main straightaway, and this is the area in which they will receive the green flag. It is displayed, and here we go. The 100-kilometer Super Vee race here at Laguna Seca, California is underway. The field moving through corner number 1 now, and a battle up front as Didier Taze gets passed by Davy Jones in turn number 2. Now Jeff McPherson looking for the opportunity to pass Didier Taze in that white car. Taze started on the outside of row number 1. Here they come uphill, headed for turn number 4.
Everybody tightly going through. Saw Didier Taze make a little attempt at taking the lead from Davy Jones, but Davy had the inside line. Now Dave goes into the corkscrew for the first time.
And this is a real quick left and then a right. Then they begin to move downhill, and this is the area that the car is literally standing on its nose as the driver begins to accelerate and pick up speed.
Taze in the Martini, the unique chassis to Super Vee, has won this year in Super Vee already. A car that comes from France, trying to take the domination away from this Ralt RT5 chassis, the English Ralt chassis, who has basically dominated Super Vee racing for many, many seasons.
Everybody coming through the hairpin nicely, it looks like. No major accidents here in lap number 1 of this race as Davy Jones from McGraw, New York, in the red roof ends Ralt car number 2 is the leader of this race. Davy is 4th in the point standings right now, having accumulated 103. Davy has won on 2 different occasions this year. He won the very first race of the year on the road course at Long Beach, and also was the winner at Road America. And as Didier Taze came through that corner that we just had, got the car a little high.
He is using every inch of the road he can find, trying to trace down Davy Jones. Davy, from his qualifying yesterday, looked to be the man to be right on form, but he has been this fast and this good all season, but has lacked a little bit of consistency. Davy now knows that he can lead, but he's just got to keep it on the road. If he keeps it on the road, he's going to be very, very hard to beat.
Well, of course, we remember his performance at a race that we televised from mid-Ohio, in which he was leading and ran into some problems, and as a matter of fact, in that race, he wound up in 18th position, but Jones did look strong for a very large portion of that race. But you can see now he's beginning to stretch out the advantage just a little bit over Didier Taze, who also has had a very successful year in Super Vee racing. He has 1 victory to his credit this year. That came at Watkins Glen. There's the number 11 car of Kerry Brand. He is in a battle right now for 3rd position, and Jeff McPherson also in this race.
Kerry Brand, a very consistent driver this year also. Kerry, the older of the Brand brothers from Newport Beach, is 3rd in the championship with basically consistency at the moment. Still looking for his first win in Super Vee.
Kerry Brand in car number 11, and Jeff McPherson also in this battle for 3rd position. There's a good look at Kerry.
McPherson, we have an off. We have a man off.
That is the number 21 of John Stephanus, and the suspension on this car is broken, so he has obviously came in contact with either another car or with one of the barriers.
He is going to try and make it back to the pits. We can see him now slowly make his way back to the pits. Hopefully he can make it, because we don't really want a yellow flag situation to break up this lead battle between Jones and Didier Taze at the moment.
Well, he is moving downhill and is very close to the pit entrance, so he is just now moving into the pit lane, so he is safely in the pit area. We'll try to find out what happened out there for you from one of our pit reporters when we return to Laguna Seca Raceway. Bob Jenkins, Derek Daly, Gary Lee, and Jackaroo back at Laguna Seca. Seca Raceway for SCCA Super Vee Racing. And here is Ken Johnson in car number 1. He is the points leader. However, he has dropped all the way back to 13th, and it looks like he may have some wing damage to that car. There's a good look at Ken, who hails from Alabama. Can wrap up the championship in Super Vees this weekend, but boy, he's got a long way to go.
He has led most of the championship this year in the Provini car, but Ken Johnson has his work cut out at the moment.
Ken Johnson with 1 victory this year. That was at the Meadowlands, but he has been Mr. Consistency. He has been in the top 10 each and every race this year. 5 laps have been completed. The leader of this race right now is the number 2 of Davy Jones. Let's go down to the pit area and find out what happened to John Stephanus.
Well, it was an early out for John. What finally took you out, John?
Well, we had a little problem. I was going to pass Ken Johnson under braking going into turn 6, which is the top of the corkscrew turn. And he moved over, and I was there. So we were both sort of in the same place at the same time. I don't think he saw me. I'm sure it wasn't on purpose, but it's just one of those things. But the red line car ran very well up to then.
Now, we're getting a report that Johnson has some problems with his wing. Did you come together badly enough that you could have caused that problem?
The problem with Ken Johnson's wing happened earlier in the race, where he and, I believe it was Steve Bren, got together a little bit. And I was able to pass him, or was in the midst of passing him, going up the hill, somewhat probably as a result of the fact that his wing wasn't operating correctly. And he just moved over on me.
So there you have it, gentlemen. First out, John Stephanus.
All right, now, Derek, how would the handling of the car be affected by such a problem that Ken Johnson has with the wing?
I'd have to say very seriously, because turns 2, 3, and 4 are high-speed, top-gear corners on this track. And without that front wing, there's no way that he could turn the car into the apex of the corner fast enough to stay on the power. So he's going to have to back out of the power and lose time for the remainder of this race.
This is Jeff Andretti in car number 43, who is currently 7th. You can see right behind him is Steve Bren in car number 5. So this is a battle for 7th position. Jeff Andretti in car number 43, the Electrolux-sponsored Super Vee. Of course, Jeff, the son of Mario Andretti and the brother of Michael Andretti, trying to get his experience in this form of racing before possibly moving into IndyCar racing. But number 5, Steve Bren, that red car, is giving Jeff all he can handle here in the early stages of this race.
Jeff had a slow start this season, then came on very strong with those 2 wins at Milwaukee and Cleveland. Slightly lost his way again, so he's now looking for a very strong finish to the season with this race here and the following Phoenix race.
Down to the pit area and a comment from Gary Lee.
Well, Derek, you were alluding to the handling problems now with Ken Johnson's number 1 Provini Vee car. Obviously, this is a very short race, almost a sprint car race, so it would not behoove him to come in the pits and make any adjustments. It's a case of really dealing with the cards that are dealt in the hand. He has to stay out there and hold the position for as long as he can, because a pit stop would totally take him out of contention and away from any possible points.
You're right, Gary. I think Johnson is stuck with what he has at the moment. As we learned from the interview earlier on, he has been in the wars in these early laps in the race, so Johnson may be just overcooking it a little bit, trying to protect his championship lead.
The leader, Davy Jones, in car number 2 with about second and a half lead over Didier Tays. Running in 3rd position is Kerry Brin in number 11. In 4th is Jeff McPherson, and 5th place at this point belongs to Mike Groff. So it's interesting that most of the drivers who are in contention for the Super Vee Championship are right up front, with the exception of Ken Johnson, who is mired back in 13th position. And look at the interval now that Davy Jones has opened between himself and Didier Tays. It looks like he's pulling away at this point.
Tays in the Martini did have a problem this morning in the warm-up. He blew his engine, his original race engine blew, the one he liked best. They did change the engine, started with something unknown, and this may be just causing him to trail slightly. But Jones has a point to prove. He's looking smooth and fast, and I think if he keeps it between the hedges, he's going to be our number 1 man.
Well, of course, he spent most of last year over in Europe driving on the European circuit, and has come back to the United States hoping to find success here that eluded him over there last year. And Davey, as you indicated earlier, Derek, has had limited success, just hasn't had the consistency that he really had hoped for this year.
That's right. His big year in Formula 3 in England was when he was matched against Ayrton Senna and Martin Brundle. Now, they are two very, very strong opponents to try and have to beat. Both men moved into Formula 1. But Davey did have a very good learning experience and a good learning curve in that year in Formula 3. And I think he's going to take some of that experience back here with him. And he should have been probably the man to beat this year right from the start. However, little driver inconsistency, I think, just held him back a little bit. But Davey Jones is the #1 fast man at the moment.
Well, he competed in just one Super Vee race last year. That was here at Laguna Seca, and he finished 8th. Right now, he's a leader, and we'll be right back in just a moment. Back at Laguna Seca, where 10 laps have been completed in this 32-lap race. There are the standings. Davey Jones, the leader. Didier Tays running second. And Kerry Bren is in 3rd position. The #3 car of Jeff McPherson, that we are watching right now, is in 4th spot. Jeff McPherson, who right now is in 7th position in the point standings, make that 6th with 68, not among those in contention for the championship. His best finish this year has been a 2nd, and that was at Mid-Ohio. Jeff did not compete in the most recent Super Vee race, which was held up in Canada at San-Air.
And he is closing up on Bren. We can see McPherson closing in on this 3rd place. Still looking for his win this year. We did see him win the Michigan International Speedway last season when he had a very, very heavily modified role. So Jeff McPherson, a little bit of an engineer as well as a good driver.
This is 2nd, 3rd, and 4th here as now Kerry Bren begins to close in on Didier Tays, and as a matter of fact, going into the hairpin, he outbreaks Didier and goes into 2nd spot. Kerry Bren moves in this. No, that is not Tays. That is the number 71 of Steve Wolf, who is one of the back markers. So Bren remains in that position, but right behind him is Jeff McPherson.
McPherson now will look for traffic to hold up Bren and try and make the little dive down the inside that we saw Bren just make there. So McPherson will try and stay right on his tail and use the traffic to his best advantage.
You know, despite the fact that we talked in the opening about how wide this track is as far as Super Vees are concerned, it's only 30 feet in width, and really I would say that there are very few places that you can actually pass cleanly out there.
Down into the hairpin where we saw that pass just the end of the last lap is probably the best place. But when you're driving against somebody at the front that's very, very competitive, you really have to have a very, very big advantage before you can easily pass somebody on this track.
Kerry Bren running in 3rd place, and Jeff McPherson in the #3 car, broad sliding coming out of the hairpin, getting the momentum build up once again for high speed as they cross the finish line and complete lap number 13 out of 32.
McPherson, a former off-road racer, but he won't be doing any off-road racing today. Still the same type of gap. Bren pulls out slightly some laps. McPherson can reel it back in, but very, very evenly matched. The traffic will be the factor here.
Kerry Bren in car number 11. Bren, of course, 3rd in the point standings with 104. Davey Jones continues to lead. We focus in on this race for 3rd position, Kerry Bren and Jeff McPherson. Didier Tays still running in 2nd spot, but Davey Jones definitely has opened up an advantage. Here is Davey crossing the finish line and completing lap number 14, and now Tays crosses the finish line, so it's about 2.5 to 3 second lead now for Davey Jones. Well, there is a new series that will be in existence next year utilizing Formula 3000 chassis, and we asked Davey Jones about it.
We go now to the drawing board. What's on tap for next season? We mentioned the B Series. Is that something we could look for you in?
Well, I've thought about the B Series. Obviously, this year it didn't happen, and for next year, I guess very strongly they're talking about it. But you know, for myself, is I've had 6 years of racing experience now, and if you jump up into an Indy car, I think the concentration and the brains have to be there. But as far as natural talent, I think that a race car is a race car. I think I can jump up into an Indy car and do real well, and I don't think I have to go through a full series of the B series just to qualify to get into kart. If that's what I have to do, then I think I can look at something else, like perhaps go on to maybe IMSA or do some GTP racing where I could have the same amount of horsepower as the Indy cars rather than a middle stage between a Super V and an Indy car. So I think I would like to do one or two off races in the B series, but as far as a full championship, I don't think that's in my program, no.
Davy Jones, a very confident race driver who thinks that perhaps Indy cars are next for him as far as a full season of racing is concerned. Time by, it'll be the halfway point. And here are the top 5. Davy Jones, Didier Tays, Kerry Bryn, Jeff McPherson, and Mike Groff. Now, we're watching Mike Groff here in car number 14, and he is not too far behind Jeff McPherson. Mike Groff, the winner of the last 2 Super V races at Mid-Ohio and at San Air. As we told you earlier, he has experience in open wheel, open cockpit racing as far as midgets are concerned. And Mike is second in points with 107. Could very well be the Super V champion for this year if things go well for him and if Ken Johnson's bad luck, as he is experiencing in this race, continue. Roger Penske Jr. has joined us in the broadcast booth. Of course, Roger, up until last year, was a regular and very capable competitor in the Super Vs. And Roger, you've been watching the first half of this race. What are your impressions?
Well, right now it seems that Davy's been able to pull a pretty good-sized lead over Didier Tays, and the main race, the real race, is between Kerry Bryn, Jeff McPherson, and Mike Groff. Pretty uneventful day for Davy at the moment.
There is Groff now moving to the inside, the number 15 car driven by Doug Clark, and Groff puts a lap on Clark, and he made that pass right at the start-finish line where the track isn't all that wide. Well, Roger, we talked earlier about a brand new racing series that will be beginning next year. It'll, in some ways, utilize Formula 3000 chassis and V6 Buick normally aspirated engines, and it's being referred to kind of loosely as the B series, although it isn't anything like the kart B series that was proposed last year. How might it affect Super V competition and Super V drivers?
I think it could affect the Super V series incredibly with the fact that the new series coming in could take over the Super V. Super V has provided a great training ground into the Indy cars, but with this new series coming on board, there could be a lot of drivers left out with cars and no place to go.
Derek, what are your impressions of the proposed new American racing series?
I think it will be very good. I think there is a stepping stone needed between Super V and Indy cars, but unfortunately Super V has been around for so long that if it doesn't run with kart, it can be in trouble. Super V needs to run with kart races also to survive, and I'll be sorry to see that to see us lose Super V if that's going to happen.
This race here for 3rd and 4th position is continuing. That is Kerry Bryn, and number 11, right ahead of Jeff McPherson. They go into the corkscrew. We have had a car that has spun. That's the number 4 of David Coudrave, who has spun and stalled up there. And it looks like the car is just outside of the hairpin, and it's about half on and half off of the racetrack. It'll bring out a yellow in that particular portion of the racetrack, but
if you can hear me, can we pick up Johnson? We haven't.
So this battle continuing here, and now Ken Johnson in car number 1, smoking the tires going into the corkscrew. As a car ahead of him, he approached just a little too quickly. That's Peter Pander riding just ahead of Ken Johnson.
Johnson fighting for everything he can get here because he has a slight disadvantage all this season. This car, in fact, is the car that Ari Leindijk won the championship in last year for Provini Wheel. So he doesn't have the latest chassis. He is slightly up against it. Now he's bent the front wing, he's locking front brakes, so he's going to have a tough time just to survive and to finish in the top 5 or 6 here today.
By the way, that race that we were watching there involving Pander and Ken Johnson is for 10th place. Now we go back and watch this contest between Bryn and McPherson. And Brent has been able to hold off the challenges of McPherson all the way. 13 laps to go here. And McPherson closes in as they go into the hairpin, but once they get back on the throttle, it appears that Kerry Brent can pull away.
When Brent has clear road in front of him, he can hold off McPherson. McPherson, as we said before, has got to depend on traffic. He's not going to get by unless Brent makes a mistake or gets caught in traffic.
The lead continues to be held by Davy Jones, with Didier Tays running in second position, and then Brent and McPherson. McPherson, as Derek mentioned, an off-road racer since 1973. In fact, he was the score driver of the year in 1980, 81, and 82. He began circuit racing in 1983 in SCCA amateur events and was third in the 1984 Super Vee Championship. The number 16 car, Mike Fulmer, has spun in the corkscrew and begins to get back on course now, and another car has looped going into the hairpin, but he continues on and begins to pick up speed and approach our broadcast position. That is the number 8 car, driven by Patrick Finney. That hairpin, also one of the most unique aspects of this racetrack. You've got to slow down, what, to second gear going into that corner?
It's actually a first gear corner here now. It's so slow. You literally have to turn the car on a dime when you're down there and accelerate out as hard as you can. So it's from 5th gear right down to 1st gear and start your lap again.
Roger, you've driven this racetrack on several occasions. What are your impressions of it? Is it as wild as it appears to be on camera?
It sure is. Some of the most exciting parts to drive are the corkscrew, and especially going up the back hill in turn 4. There's a lot of slow stuff and a lot of high-speed stuff.
Davy Jones in the hairpin coming out of it, and this will complete lap number 23. So we have 10 more laps to go, and Davy Jones is the leader of this race. He has led all the way so far. Our thanks to Roger Penske Jr. for joining us for comments. We'll be right back after these messages. We invite you to join us for Speed Week every Thursday evening at 7:30 here on ESPN for all the latest from the world of motorsports, the latest results, and the latest news. Larry Newber joins me for Speed Week every Thursday evening at 7:30 here on ESPN. We're covering SCCA Super Vees for you today from Laguna Seca Raceway in Monterey, California. Big weekend of racing here, the Indy cars. Also competing on this track this weekend. The leader of the race is Davy Jones. In second is Didier Tays. Third place, Kerry Brent. Fourth is Jeff McPherson. Fifth is Mike Groff. In sixth place is Michael Andretti, Jeff Andretti. In seventh position is Steve Bren. Eighth is Ted Prappus. Ninth is Matt McBride. In 10th place is the number 9 car of Peter Pander, and in 11th place now is this man, Ken Johnson, in car number 1. So he has improved his position a couple of spots. However, he's still a long way back from the leader.
Johnson could, in fact, have wrapped up this championship this weekend. If he had won the race, he could have taken enough points if the other 3 people, Jones, etc., had not scored. Johnson could have had wrapped it up, but he's not going to do it now. He's in too much trouble. He's going to have to go to Phoenix and try and protect his lead, but he's kept all season long.
Well, that bent front wing there is, I'm sure, contributing to his problems here in this race. That was bent on the very first lap of the car, just not handling on this high-speed racetrack. The number 9 car of Peter Pander is running right ahead of him in 10th position, and Peter was a winner this year on the Super Vee circuit. As a matter of fact, that win came at Detroit, and was rather a surprise. He had not been real super competitive, and all of a sudden Peter Pander winds up in victory lane in a Super Vee race. This is only his 4th race of the year, or make that his 5th race. He competed at Long Beach and then took a couple of races off before going to Detroit and winning there. Moving to the inside of one of the back markers, Didier Tays continues to run in 2nd place in that number 30 Martini. As far as the chassis are concerned, mostly Ralts. There is an Anson that is running in this race, driven by
Kim Campbell.
Kim Campbell
in the ensign.
And then this Martini, driven by Tays.
This is the Mark 47 Martini. Now, the Martini is one of the most successful chassis ever to race in Europe. The most prestigious Formula 3 race in Europe is the Grand Prix of Monte Carlo Formula 3 race. And the Martini chassis have won no less than 7 times. 7 times they've won that prestigious race with drivers like Didier Pironi, Alan Prost, and the latest of Ivan Capelli, who made his Grand Prix debut today at the British Grand Prix. So the Martini chassis, very, very well known in Europe, and now trying to make their mark here in Super Vee racing in America, and already has one race win at Watkins Glen this year with Didier Tays from Belgium.
He was the second fastest qualifier here this weekend, was also the second fastest qualifier at the Meadowlands and at Watkins Glen earlier this year. The driver hails from Belgium. His name is Didier Tays. He is a competitor in European racing, but has come to the United States to try his hand at Super Vees. Now, you'll notice very closely that the side pod on that car on the left is a little different from the right side pod. And Jack Arute had an opportunity to take a look at that situation a little bit earlier in this ESPN Track Fact.
Most Super Vee automobiles in competition on the circuit employ an open-type side pod, like on the right-hand side of this car, but not the Martini car driven by Didier Tays. This new design has incorporated a lower left side pod, narrowing up the air inlet, but increasing the aerodynamic flow over and under. The important point there is it also increases the ground effects and hopefully the speed for the machine.
Well, the car is working well, but not quite well enough. Didier Tays in the Martini is second right now to Davy Jones. 28 out of 33 laps completed. We'll be right back. Laguna Seca. Running in 9th position is Ted Prappus in car number 98, who is the defending champion of this race here at Laguna Seca. Ted Prappus has been a regular competitor for several years on the Super Vee series, and his best finish this year has been a second at Milwaukee. He is from Los Angeles, California.
6th in the current standings with 81 points. He was second in Milwaukee and third at Long Beach, our winner here last year. 5th at the Meadowlands and 6th at Watkins Glen. Our race we saw at San Air in Canada, Prappus finished 8th position.
Has been a winner in previous years on the Super Vee series, but visit to victory lane this year has eluded him. He is currently running in 9th position. Ted Prappus from Los Angeles.
This is the little baby sister car to Tom Sneeba's Skull Bandit. This is the Skull Bandit Super Vee Rolls.
There you see right behind him the Peter Pander and Ken Johnson battle for position. They come down the straightaway here and complete another lap. That's lap number 29 that is completed by those drivers. And this Peter Pander and Ken Johnson contest for position is beginning to heat up a little bit now as Johnson looks for the opportunity to pass, gets to the inside or looks to the inside but cannot find the opportunity. It looks like one of the cars that preceded this duo got off the course and kicked up a little bit of dust, but no major problem.
Johnson at the moment is not inside the top 10. He just happened outside the top 10. It's a non-point scoring position. So, although he's got trouble, he's got to try and get into the top 10 to score some points to take more of an advantage to Phoenix with him. Because Davy Jones, if he picks up maximum points, he's going to be within 2 or 3 of Johnson when they start the final round of the Phoenix Speedway.
And all this means that the Phoenix Super Vee race that we will tape for you and present on ESPN will be an exciting one because it'll be a battle for the championship in Super Vee cars.
This is the way it should be. The championship should come down to the wire, should come down to the last race, and as it will, there are 3 or 4 people that can still win it. The most exciting young drivers in America are here in this series, so ESPN will keep you well up to date with the final round of this.
You can see the the corner workers giving the drivers an indication that a faster car or a car is close to them and may be in a passing position. It appears that Trappist may be slowing down just a little because Pander has passed him. Now he runs between Pander and Ken Johnson. Here they come down the hill. This is the area of the racetrack in which they enter the pits. But of course, in this shorter race and with the race only 100 kilometers long, these Super Vees will not be pitting because if they do, it's pretty much all over for that particular driver. There's a good look at Ted Trappist, driver of car number 98.
Johnny's just stuck behind him here. He's going to try and make a run down into turn 2. Didn't quite make it. Hasn't got the speed through turn 2. Therefore, he can't pull out of the slipstream along any of the straightaways. So he may have a very difficult time getting by the Skull Bandit here. That's where he slowed down. The Skull Bandit slowed down the last time. And Johnson slips through and he's away.
We're on the final lap of the race, and Davy Jones appears well on his way to victory. He's approaching the corkscrew right now, braking hard and turning to the left and then right with the car standing on its nose. That's a 21-degree drop. The cars are at a 21-degree angle as they come down out of the corkscrew. Now he's approaching corner number 8, a short straightaway, and into corner number 9, the hairpin. He's coming out of that corner and approaching the finish line where the checkered flag is being displayed. There it is. The checkered is out, and Davy Jones has won our 100-kilometer Super Vee race here at Laguna Seca. And we're watching now for second position Didier Tays to come by. He has already taken the flag. He finishes second. Here comes third. That's the number 11 of Kerry Bryn. He takes the checkered flag. Bryn finishes third. And fourth position is going to go to Jeff McPherson. But there is the winner, Davy Jones, raising the hand and congratulating, getting the congratulations of Didier Tays as he drives by, and the crowd gathered here at Laguna Seca Raceway. It's a flag-to-flag victory for Davy Jones.
He said earlier on in his little interview that he wasn't that keen on doing a full season in the B Series. Well, all the kart team managers are here to watch him display his talents today. He's done the right thing. He has cleanly won this. He's driven with style and aggression, and he picked up $5,000 for his afternoon's work.
Not a bad 35 or 40 minutes of work for Davy Jones. And he is now going into victory lane. Gary Lee is there, and we will have an interview with the winner, Davy Jones, in just a moment. Here are the final results. We'll be back for that victory lane interview right after this. There are the final results. Davy Jones, the winner. Didier Tays second. Kerry Bryn was third. Jeff McPherson fourth. And Jeff Andretti was fifth. Let's go to victory lane and get the winner interview from Gary Lee.
And certainly no stranger to victory lane. Congratulations, flag to flag.
Thanks very much. I felt very relaxed for the race, but by all means, it wasn't easy. It was very difficult around this Laguna Seca. It's a beautiful course. I love to drive it, and it suits me fine, but we've had 34 Super Vees in the race this weekend, and it's been very, very difficult with back markers. And although I tried to play very smart to pass the back markers, and I ran hard all the way through because I wanted to get as much of a gap between myself and Didier that I could in case I did get balked by back markers. So it was pretty hectic towards the end, but we hung in there.
It is now a three-way shootout for the title. 1 week from today, Phoenix. It's a short, fast, paved bull ring. Do you like the ovals?
Well, I like the ovals. You know, racing in Europe, I didn't have much oval experience, but, you know, as we've been going through the ovals this year, I've been getting quicker and quicker. Up in our last oval up in Montreal at Saint Air, I qualified second, and I ran second all through the race, and I turned fastest lap, and I almost beat Mike Groff, but maybe next weekend.
Obviously, down there in the pit area, a lot of the championship car owners were watching, and that sets well with you.
Well, it does. You know, It's been a difficult season. We started out well, and we've been very quick, and we've at every racetrack we've been on the top, and you know, maybe some of the team managers said that maybe he just needs a little bit more experience, which I'm young and I can afford more experience, but at the same time I think I can move up a step and try something else.
We congratulate you. There's some champagne up there to spray. Congratulations.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Gary, and our congratulations from the booth to Davy Jones, who led all 33 laps in winning our 100-kilometer event here this afternoon. We'll take a look at the race summary and the very tight point standings now when we come back to Laguna Seca. Here's our race summary. The time of the race was 34 minutes, 7 seconds, and 14 one-hundredths. The average speed, 110.25 miles an hour, and that's almost as good as they qualified at. We only had one leader. That was Davy Jones. He led all the way. Now, the point standings after this race show that Ken Johnson remains atop them with 132. He scored a few points today. As a matter of fact, he scored 6 points. But Davy Jones now is well within striking distance at 123. Kerry Bryn is at 118 and Mike Groff at 117. So with 20 more points available, the contest will go down to those 4 drivers for the championship. The final standings, Davy Jones the winner, Didier Tay second, Kerry Bryn was third, Jeff McPherson fourth, and Jeff Andretti in a last lap pass finished in 5th position. 6 through 10, Groff, then Steve Bryn, Peter Pander, Matt McBride, and Ken Johnson. So, Derek, the inconsistency that we talked about earlier with Davy Jones was not evident today. A very fine run for the young driver.
Today, he displayed what we know he can do. And I think if he takes the same mentality and the same preparation to Phoenix, I think he's going to be the man that's going to take this championship.
Well, we will have that race for you, the final Super Vee race of the year for you later this season here on ESPN's Auto Racing 85. Thanks to Roger Penske Jr. for his comments, and of course Derek Daly for his comments here in the booth, and for the pit work exhibited this afternoon by Gary Lee and by Jack Arute. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you again. For now, this is Bob Jenkins. So long from Laguna Seca Raceway, where Davy Jones won in Super Vees today.